Welcome everybody to another QB Power Hour. Today is a special one that we have on a Tuesday, so I'm glad to see all of you joining us today. Today we're going to talk about top 5 super cool features of QuickBooks Online. Some of the favorite things about using QuickBooks Online and some of the things that we love about it. A little bit about our agenda today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the introduction to CPE Process, some upcoming live events that we have. And then there's our topic for today, the top 5 super cool features. We're going to be learning how small businesses can increase efficiencies by using QuickBooks Online, specifically how these features help save us lots of time and allow us and our clients to be more efficient. So thank you guys for joining us today. A little bit about QB Power Hour. It is a webinar series that we usually do every other Thursday. As I said, this is a special one on a Tuesday. Upcoming on June 6th, we have Inventory and Manufacturing. This is an ACE-eligible course. For those of you that are advanced certified pro advisors, as you know, you're going to need ACE continuing education credits now, and this course or that webinar on the 16th is ACE eligible, so that will help you earn some of those ACE credits. Then on June 30th, we're going to be covering some tricky desktop conversions from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. Normally, we cover half desktop and half online. This one is all about online today, and comparing some of the things that make it so much great and more efficient as compared to desktop. But then like you see here on the Inventory and Manufacturing on June 16th, that one is going to be all desktop. We do occasionally have special guests and third-party apps. We bring in people and resources that we think will be very good and useful for you all. We do have our primary sponsors are myself and Hector Garcia, but we also occasionally have other third-party sponsors, as Intuit is sponsoring this webinar for us today. We're very grateful to have them helping us and sponsoring this webinar today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michelle Wong. I am a CPA located in Kansas City, Missouri, but today I'm in sunny San Francisco, California, doing some Firm of the Future and QBO certification prep training this week. I'm the author of several different books. You can check those out. And I love being a trainer for Intuit. Hector, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself today?
Sure. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's awkward doing this on a Tuesday, so used to doing them on Thursdays. I live and work in Miami, Florida. I teach QuickBooks in my own classroom. That's a picture of the classroom down there. We do customized QuickBooks and Excel training for small businesses and other accountants. I have a master's in taxation, member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and doing videos and teaching QuickBooks is my favorite thing in the world.
Very cool. Yeah, I love teaching QuickBooks too. You want to go ahead and tell them about CPE?
Sure. So we're going to give you a CPE certificate if you attend the webinar live, although we always record these webinars and post them in YouTube, post them in QBPowerHour.com. Watching them on the recording doesn't give you CPE, so you have to be here. So all of you that are attending live, you'll be eligible for that. You have to be logged in for at least 50 minutes, and we'll give you a CPE password, a keyword, during the beginning of the webinar, and then at some point towards the end you have to wait for that polling question, answer it correctly, and only if you answer it correctly you will automatically be sent your CPE certificate. It does take us 2 or 3 weeks because we have to process some manual ones sometimes, and also some episodes are eligible for ACE, which is Advanced Continuing Education for Pro Advisors. Those will be clearly notated at the beginning of the episode. This one is not. However, in 2 weeks, on June 16th, we will have an advanced bank feeds webinar that will be ACE eligible. As a matter of fact, it will be our first webinar with ACE on it. Go ahead, Michelle.
Very good. So we do have some upcoming webinars and events. Hector, you want to talk about your webinar tomorrow?
Sure. So I'm running a webinar tomorrow called Enterprise.Expert. It's going to be tomorrow at noon Eastern time, same time as this one, but tomorrow Wednesday. This is something I'm trying to get off the ground as a monthly webinar all about enterprise level technology, and tomorrow's episode is going to be on QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Reporting. This is probably my 3rd or my 4th major video I do on that tool, so we're going to continue creating more content for QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Reporting, so check it out. You just go to enterprise.expert and that's it, no www.now.com. Now, Scaling New Heights, that's going to be next week. Both Michelle and I are going to get on a plane probably Saturday or Sunday to be at this conference, and we're very excited about it. It's the first time that they run scaling new heights outside of the country. Okay, so that should be particularly exciting. And also, Michelle and I are both teaching several classes during the whole week. And if you're not signed up by now, you're probably not going to, but if you need to, go to wooderevents.com. And Michelle, you want to talk about QuickBooks Connect?
Yeah, sure. So QuickBooks Connect is coming up again this year in October. We'd love to see you all there. Intuit has put together an amazing conference where they bring together not just accounting professionals, but also small business owners and developers. It's been a fabulous conference the last 2 years. It's just really incredible. Last year they had Oprah Winfrey, and I don't know how they're going to top that this year, but it's always a great conference with a lot of great content, as well as networking with not just Intuit employees, but lots of networkers or developers, as well as small business owners as well. So if you could join us for that, that would be great. It's in San Jose, which is, you can fly into either San Jose or San Francisco and get to the conference pretty easily. And also, Sandy Smith-Leva and I are doing a workshop coming up in June. We had so many people asking. It's going to be my 5 Ps on growing your practice, focusing on planning, your product and services, your people, your pricing, as well as your processes. If you'd like to join me for that, just send me an email, and I will send you the link for that. It's going to be over 5 separate sessions coming up in June, so love to have you join us for that as well. Now, let's get into some of the best super cool features about QuickBooks Online. First of all, you know it is cloud-based. You can access it from anywhere and anytime. And I know I hear some people sometimes say, well, what if the internet goes down? Well, all you need to do is turn on the hotspot on your phone, and normally that's great. But one time, and this is where you really realize how you can really access QuickBooks Online from anywhere and anytime on any device. I was presenting at a conference down in Curacao, which is a Dutch Caribbean island. It's just beautiful. And the first day, everything went great. I was able to connect my computer to the internet, and everything was working fine. But on day 2, for some reason, my computer would no longer connect to the internet. Well, normally I would just turn on my hotspot on my cell phone, but this was international data rates, and I'm too cheap to pay for that. So I looked around the room, and I had all of these accountants and bookkeepers that had their own computers. All I had to do was ask someone, can I borrow your computer? And I was able to hook up. I was able to get into QuickBooks Online. The only problem I had, I was able to fake it until I was trying to show them how to create that one-click icon bar by using the bookmark bar, and I had to admit I didn't know how to show them how to turn on the bookmark bar because the menus in Chrome were in Dutch, and I couldn't read them. But that was a great example of how you can access QuickBooks really from anywhere. And, you know, somebody's saying that not everybody has a phone hotspot. You know, most people, if you've got a smartphone, and let's say you've got Verizon or AT&T, most of them have the option that allow you to turn your phone into a hotspot. With Verizon, it's included in your monthly fee. So check into that. If you've got a different provider like AT&T or Sprint, check into that. But I know a lot of people have that capability, and you may not even realize it. Or you can also buy those MiFi devices to create your own hotspot. Okay? So again,
just real quick, I believe that all iPhone 5s and above have built-in hotspot. You just need to turn it on with your provider. And usually you get charged by the data anyway. So just think about, if you got an iPhone 5 and above, those, I think all of them have hotspot in it.
Yeah, and all you do is you click on your settings and you go to cellular and you click the button to turn on the hotspot. And Michael's saying Galaxy phones also have hotspots. So yeah, some of you, it sounds like you might need to check into that because you're asking some questions about that. And so you can access it from any device. And in a previous webinar that we did, you can go to YouTube and see that webinar. We talked about all the ways that you can access QuickBooks Online, from a browser on your PC, your Mac, or your phone or your tablet, through the QBO mobile app. And I was going to try to demonstrate that this time, but I did demo that on the last one where we talked about different ways to access QuickBooks Online, where you can actually use your phone to enter an expense and actually take the picture of the receipt, and that will all be synced with the QuickBooks file automatically for you. So your clients that are out working in the field, they could be entering expenses, they can do estimates or invoices, they can receive payments on their phone or on their tablet, and then it's automatically syncing back with QuickBooks. So that's a huge time saver there. And then also there's that desktop app that we talked about last time as well. So these are big, big time savings when you're working in the cloud. It's huge time savings for us and our clients. Think about how much time you spend sending files back and forth with your clients. Think about when it's time to update a client, how you have to update all of those files. Like let's say 2013 is going to be sunsetting. If you're going to be updating everybody to 2016 or 2017 this fall, think about how much time you spend updating all those desktop files. There's no compatibility issues. You don't have to keep, 5 or more years of QuickBooks on your computer so that you're compatible with your clients. When you're working with QuickBooks Online, you guys are all in the same file. It's up to date. There's no compatibility issues. You're not sending files back and forth. There's no need to have a network or deal with servers or updates or backups. It's like you've outsourced your whole IT department. So these are where we really get some huge time savings, with our clients. And one of Intuit's saying is, and I can't remember it exactly, but this is like one of their premises or their fundamental missions is to so profoundly change people's lives that they can't imagine to go back to doing it the old way. And I can tell you, as a longtime desktop user, I first started teaching it in 1999. I've written books about desktop, and I've taught it for years. And now I can't imagine going back to the old way of working with QuickBooks Desktop. Because since I've started using QuickBooks Online with my clients and realized how much easier it is, I can't imagine going back to the old way. It's amazing how much time you save when you are working in the cloud with your clients. So if you haven't started doing some of this already, I really encourage you. We did a few webinars earlier where we talked about converting from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. So there's some webinars in the QB Power Hour archive on converting from desktop to online, the preparation for converting, how easy it is. And this is a great opportunity for you also to grow your practice, because if you look at the numbers, more and more of these small businesses are wanting to adopt a cloud-based system. In fact, 60% of the new users are choosing QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop. So they're wanting to adopt QuickBooks Online, they're wanting to convert to QuickBooks Online, and this is our opportunity to help them with that in this conversion. Hopefully, this is something that if you haven't started doing it already, you will start, because these time savings, then you get to decide what do you want to do with all this time that you're saving. If we're able to use the features that Hector and I are sharing with you here today, let's say we can save you on a particular client. Let's say it's going to take you 20 hours to do the work, and now you're able to do the work in 5. What are you going to do with all this extra time? Because Hector's going to talk to you about the bank feeds and stuff in just a minute. So switching to the cloud and then adopting some of these principles are huge time savers for you and for your clients. And this is where a lot of accountants are now switching to value-based pricing, so that not only are we saving more time, we're making more money, and we're being way more profitable when we start implementing some of this technology. So let's go ahead and do our CPE keyword here. The CPE keyword is lake, and that's my 2 little kids who aren't so little anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm embarrassed to say my son is going to be 25 this week. I had him when I was 10, right? No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, those are my kids enjoying the lake. We are getting ready for summer at the lake. So the CPE keyword for this webinar is lake. So write that down, and then towards the end of this webinar, we will be giving you that polling question and asking you to put in the polling question, lake. We love enjoying the lake in the spring and the summer, and even in the fall too. So put down lake. Oh, thank you. Somebody said beautiful kids. That's my youngins. I don't have quite as many as Hector, but that's my 2 kiddos, so lake. And Hector's got another one coming. Oh my goodness, Hector. You have my sympathies because you have your hands full. You really need this time savings, don't you?
I do. You want to give me, okay, so Michelle, I'm just going to cover these 2 real quick, and then you give me access so I can do a demo. So the other really important, obviously the fact that the data is online, that's low-hanging fruit. That's the reason why why QBO is what it is. But one of the specific features in QuickBooks Online that just the developers of Intuit really drove home, it was online banking or bank feeds. Okay, in some legacy QuickBooks systems. They used to call it online banking. Now they call it bank feeds. So that's actually the correct term to use now. In the chat box here, I'm sending you a link of an article in the QuickBooks blog that basically shows a history of the development of bank feeds in the past year or so. So I think it's really, really good to go through it, because if you haven't dug really, really deep into bank feeds in QuickBooks Online lately, that will give you a good understanding in terms of, what are the newer things that they're adding into QuickBooks Online Banking. So a couple of the things that stand out, and let me just go into online bank feeds here. So I'm here in the QuickBooks Online sample file. And by the way, just in case you didn't know this, this is one of the best things about QuickBooks Online. It has nothing to do with QuickBooks Online itself. It has to do with the capacity to pull up a sample file. If you in Google type QBO test drive or QuickBooks Online test drive, so if you just type QuickBooks Online test drive or QBO test drive and you click on that, it sends you straight into a sample file that is always there, always available. So this is great for doing samples, for quick questions. Somebody asks you, hey, can QuickBooks Online do this? It's great to just log into a sample file and play around with it. Anyway, so that's what I'm playing with. So a couple of things. We're going to do a full episode on in-depth bank feeds. So we're going to go really, really deep in about, I would say about a month, right? So June 16th. We're going to go really deep into all the in-depth features of QuickBooks Online bank feed. So I want to just point out some really important ones. Number one, you can actually upload a CSV file, something you cannot do with QuickBooks Desktop. So very often you'll have some smaller banks that don't export the .qbo file, and they only have the .csv file available. There's only one major drawback with it right now, but I am hoping and fantasizing that QuickBooks is working on this, is that when you upload a CSV file into bank feeds, you cannot bring in the check number. So you can only bring in date, description or the payee, and the amount. So date, description, and the amount. So for now, the CSV upload works pretty well for not transactions that don't have check numbers, or maybe for petty cash transactions and stuff like that. But that's huge, right? Because otherwise you need a special tool to convert CSV to QBO. So that's one of the real nice things that you won't really find that in QuickBooks Desktop. The other really nice thing about QuickBooks Online is a batch modify. So batch modify is something that, again, QuickBooks Desktop doesn't have, that allows you to grab several transactions. For example, let's say I want to grab this one, and this one. So I'm grabbing basically 3 transactions in a row. And just before I click on anything, let me show you something else. I'm going to uncheck these. And something that QuickBooks Desktop cannot do, that they actually got it right in QuickBooks Online, is I can check on one, and then I can hold the Shift key, and then I can go 2, 3, 4, 5 down, whatever the group is I want to select. And then I can Shift click, and QuickBooks Online knows that it's going to select everything in between. So anyway, when I select a whole bunch of transactions, I can come up here to Batch Actions, and I can click on Modify Selected. Now for this particular case, one of these have a matching, so let me uncheck this one, and we'll do Modify Selected. And what this allows you to do is allows you to, in batch, so everything that I selected in one shot, select one vendor or one customer, just one payee, and one expense category. So basically in one shot, I can select a vendor and a category, hit apply, and it will automatically rename those two to the new vendor and the expense category. So that's actually a really, really important feature that QuickBooks Online bank feeds has that you cannot find in QuickBooks Desktop. The other really important feature is that in here, this text that says Books by Bessie, this is the original text from the bank. Now, in QuickBooks Desktop, you don't get a copy of the original text from the bank. So the problem that happens sometimes, and this is more common with end users, not so much accountants and power users, is that they'll reclassify something here, and then they'll book it, they'll enter the transaction, and then you will have no record of what the actual original bank name was. So the fact that QuickBooks Online copies that original bank text into the memo it's huge, because in certain cases, and Michelle may cover this on the reclassify tool section towards the end of the webinar, where if you actually are looking at a whole bunch of transactions and are looking at the memos, and you notice that you selected the wrong payee, then you can really identify major potential errors in your bookkeeping. The other sort of hidden feature that's here is that you can add attachments on the fly. So one of the deficiencies of working with QuickBooks Desktop with bank feeds is that you have to first download all the transactions and add them and accept them, and then you have to go one by one manually to add the attachments to each one, assuming that you are adding attachments. So what's really nice about this is this allows you to click add attachment, find your attachment in your desktop, in your Dropbox, whatever, and attach it on the fly. So that's actually a really, really, really good, important thing that QuickBooks Online has. So sort of one of those little tiny hidden features in there. And like I said, we're going to do several examples on the 616 episode. The other kind of hidden feature, it's here on the rules. Okay, so a little bit different than QuickBooks Desktop. QuickBooks Desktop, every time you create a transaction, it will ask you whether or not to create a rule for you. In QuickBooks Online, it's a little bit different. Rules have to be explicitly created. They don't get done sort of behind the scenes. And for some people, that's good. For some people, they will probably agree with me that they would prefer to have a lot more control over new rules that get created. But what bank rules can do that is a lot more powerful than QuickBooks Desktop is you can have rules that behave one way as money's coming out and a different way as money's coming in. So let's just look at the bank feeds here and just look at an example. I think I have, for example, this is we have a rental here. So you notice that a rental has a $200 transaction here and then a $1,200 transaction on this side. So what you can start noticing is that we have the same vendor being used for expenses or for money out and then for money in as well. So the big question is, you know, when money comes in from a particular vendor, that may be one category. And when money comes out to a particular vendor, that could be a different category altogether. So it is quite possible that depending on the transactions that you're doing, on the type of transaction, that could be it. So one of the examples is American Express. When American Express pays you money, that is probably a customer paying you through a merchant processor of some sort. But when you pay American Express, that is probably you paying a bill to a credit card. So that's the nice thing about the rules. So I'm going to go up here to the rules and just kind of show you how that will work real quick. And again, this is just a teaser for a real in-depth bank feeds episode we're going to have. So with money out, we can say, look, if it has the word, like I used American Express, but it has the word rental, you know, make the money out. And you can actually choose based on which account is coming from. So, I mean, another use case for this would be, so if I am paying with a credit card, you know, if I'm paying American Express with a credit card, that's probably interest. But if I'm paying American Express with my bank, that's probably the bill to pay my American Express credit card. And if the money is coming in from American Express into my credit card, that is probably points or rewards. But then if money is coming out, money's coming out from American Express, you know, to American Express in this case, that would be likely, you know, paying a fee of some sort. So the context in which what account I'm paying from or where I'm seeing this transaction, plus whether it's money in or money out, could be a separate rule on its own. And that's something that just QuickBooks Desktop cannot do. And like I said, we're going to cover in-depth examples on the advanced bank feeds episode. All right, let me, Michelle, you want to take control over to just swing the next slide? You mind?
No, that's fine. I can do that. Let me go ahead and clear that out of there. Okay, let's get the presenter to me. There we go.
Yep.
All
and
right,
then
there we go.
And are there any questions?
Okay.
Are there any questions from me on the bank feed side?
There were a few. I was answering some of those as we went along. Somebody had asked, you know, how many statements can be downloaded or what's the max. And on the downloading there, when you first set up a bank feed, you can initially download up to 90 days of transactions. But as Hector was showing you, if you go into the bank website and download those transactions, the bank or the credit card, and download those kind of transactions as really one of 4 file types, the QBO, QFX, OFX, or CSV, then you'll be able to import those older transactions into QuickBooks as well. So there's really no limitation on how much you can import. You could go get those and download those if you need to. Hector, somebody's asking about, can this be used for Amazon and PayPal?
Well, okay, so PayPal has a bank feeds feature that actually downloads some of the transactions in net format. The problem, I mean, PayPal is like a real long conversation we can have, just because the nature of how people use PayPal is different depending on the industry. So, there's the short answer is yes, there is a downloadable option for PayPal, and you can also upload the CSV file, as we mentioned, if you want to modify the CSV file first. For Amazon, I don't think so. I mean, the problem with QuickBooks Online is you think it doesn't do something, and then next week it does. So I want to say, as far as I know, it doesn't, but it's not a definitive answer. All right, so I think there's some more questions, right? Okay, so
let me just answer. There's one here. Let me just answer. I had mentioned earlier, and they said, when you take a picture of a receipt, where does it go? So if I am using my phone, let's say I enter an expense, and I use my phone to take a picture of that receipt, it will be attached to that expense in QuickBooks Online. So, Hector, you want to go ahead now and talk about the automatic reports?
Right. The other super cool feature, as the title of the webinar suggested, that that QuickBooks Online has that you just can't find in QuickBooks Desktop, is creating systems for automatically emailing reports. Okay. And what's really nice about this is you can automatically email a report daily, weekly, monthly, and it could be a regular report or it could be a custom report. So I want to show you a couple of use cases. So I'm going to show you a demo now, Michelle, if you want to give me control. So I'll show you a few use cases on that. So I'm going to go into the Reports tab here on the left side, and then I'm going to pull up, let's say, a balance sheet. So one of my really huge pet peeves in a balance sheet is that the balance sheet doesn't show me the comparative with last year. I mean, I would say 9 times out of 10 I'm pulling up a balance sheet. I can't use it by itself. I need to have that comparative. So I'm going to go ahead and click Customize, and then click Previous Period here, and then click Dollar Change, and then click Run Report. So this is a really important thing for me. Is I just can't really look at a balance sheet unless I have a previous period comparison. Now, sometimes you may want to do previous period, and sometimes you want to do previous year, depending on exactly what you're trying to achieve. You know, if you're more of a tax preparer type of user, you may want to do previous year. So let me do this year here on the balance sheet and compare it with the year before. That way, I'm comparing them this year and then last year. And then this is a report that I typically don't want to sit there and modify each time. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save Customizations on the top. So I'll click Save Customizations, and then I'll call it balance sheet with last year dollar comparative or something like that. Okay. Then I have a couple of things I can do. It's I can add it to a group, and then by it being part of a group, this is where I can start scheduling it. So I'm going to go to Add New, and then I'm going to call it Monthly. That way I basically created a report group called Monthly, and then I'm going to save all my custom reports into that monthly group right there. And also, if I want any other users in QuickBooks to be able to see my my modified or my customized report, then I'll click on to share this report with all company users. That way somebody else can take a look at that custom report. Let's say the other report that I pull, I'm going to go ahead and do a profit and loss, and then I'm going to click on collapse, and I'm going to do transaction date. I'll do this year, and then I click on run. And then I'm also going to click on customize, and then I'm going to do descending order, and then I'll also do previous year, and I'll do percent change. So let's say this is how I normally like seeing my profit and loss reports, you know, like this. So again, I'm also going to customize this one and also give it a name, you know, with previous year percent change, and then very important. I'm going to make this part of my monthly group, and then I'm going to put it here under monthly, and also share this with other users so that they can see it, and hit OK. And then let's say, I'm going to show you one really interesting trick. This actually I learned from Stacy Kildall. She just, it just blew my mind. Sometimes the simplest things are the greatest ones. So I'm going to go do a reconciliation. Okay, I'm going to do something that, typically us accountants, we don't do this, but a lot of our clients do, right? So I'm going to reconcile this and just force a reconciliation with a reconciliation discrepancy. So I'm just going to show you real quick obviously what you should never do, right? Something like this. But if your client happens to do a reconciliation and do an automatic adjustment like this, when you see your profit and loss report, you're going to notice that a reconciliation discrepancy transaction shows up. So one of the things I like to do is I like to open up my reconciliation discrepancy detail report like this. Here where it says transactions, I'll put all dates and hit run report. And I know some of you know where I'm going with this. I'm going to save customization and call it recon discrepancy. Okay, and I'm also going to add this into my monthly report. So what's nice about this is I can proactively set up my QuickBooks to send me monthly reports. So I'm going to go to reports. I'm going to click on my custom reports, and then I see my group. There's my monthly group there, right? And then I can edit this group, and I'm going to say, we're going to set an email schedule, and we're going to repeat these in a monthly basis on the, let's say, the 6th day of the month, right? Actually, every 1 month, and we're going to do it on the 6th day of the month, and in something like this, and then I'll put my own email address here, and then basically I set it and forget it. So I can, if I am the type of pro advisor that just teaches our client what to do, and then every once in a while they call us for support, I could at least monitor what they're doing. So if I see something crazy show up in that report, I know that maybe they're falling behind. And the most important thing is, if they do a reconciliation discrepancy, I will see the details and exactly what they did, and even I could customize a report to put the end user that did that as well. So I mean, that I find that to be a really, really, really powerful feature. I really wish QuickBooks Desktop could do that. I mean, there's been many requests for it to do that, but for now, I find it to be a real powerful, super cool feature of QuickBooks Online. So that's it for me. I was going to cover bank feeds and reports. Yes, Michelle.
Yeah. Well, and so on that automatic reports, what I love to do is I have an account called Ask Michelle. When they don't know what to do with something, put it to the Ask Michelle account. And I like to create the detail of that report, and like you said, send it to myself on a regular basis so I can see how many transactions are in there. Do they just have 1 or 2, or do they have 5 or 10? Is it time to schedule an appointment with them? And like you said, by being able to set it up to email to myself, like some clients it might be on a weekly basis. If they're still training and just learning, you might get it weekly. Some clients might be monthly, some clients quarterly. But like you said, that's a huge time saver because I get those reports coming to me so I can quickly review them, and it's faster and more efficient than going in and looking at each one of the companies and seeing what's in that account. So these are, like you said, huge time savers. So I really like that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly. Are there any more questions?
Somebody said, can the reports calculate financial ratios such as the quick ratio? And no, you can put ratios on there like Hector was showing how you can have it show like the % of income. So you can do some of those to show like the gross profit ratio on the P&L where you can add it as a % of income. But something like the quick ratio, you're going to need a third-party app for that. There's several apps that will calculate ratios and do dashboards such as Finograph and some other ones. So look at some of those third-party apps that will do some of those for you.
Right. If you go to Accountant University, you just Google Accountant University. There's a webinar for apps.com tomorrow at 2 p.m., which I'm doing for Intuit, and it's about QVinci and Fathom. And I'm actually going to compare them head-to-head kind of thing. And then that's about third-party apps that do that sort of thing, like ratios. Unfortunately, Intuit has made the decision, instead of making QuickBooks Online a report analytics sort of system, to just empower third-party developers to make something a lot more powerful than what QuickBooks is capable of.
Very good. And somebody asked about better budget versus actual reports in QBO. QVinci, like Hector just mentioned, QVinci can do some great reporting. So you might want to attend that webinar that he talked about tomorrow afternoon, or check out QVinci, QVinci. I don't know if I spelled that right, but I can type it in there for you. I'll do that in just a little bit. Okay, Hector, so I'm going to go ahead and take control back now.
Perfect.
And let's go ahead. So yes, these automatic reports, I just love those. Those are an awesome feature. Then we also have QBOA, QuickBooks Online Accountant. This again is another huge time saver for us that we have with QuickBooks Online that you don't have with the desktop version. With QuickBooks Desktop, you've got all of these client files on your computer. You don't have one central dashboard to help you to monitor your clients and things. So with QBOA, QuickBooks Online Accountant, we've got the client dashboard, and I'll go in and show you this briefly in just a moment. But we've got our client dashboard. This allows us to log in once. You log in one time, let's say in the morning, and then you can be logged in for all of your clients. And it's much, much faster to switch in between clients. Like let's say if you're working on client A and client B calls and has a quick question, you can quickly open client B and you can switch back and forth quickly and easily. You can have more than one company open in QuickBooks Online by using multiple browsers, like having one open in Firefox, one open in Chrome, or by using in Chrome, you could use the incognito window to have another one open. You also in Chrome can set up multiple Chrome users, so you can have different companies open in each Chrome user. So it is very quick to switch in and out of clients, much faster than closing and opening a desktop company file. I mean, that, to me, I was always so painful when I'd want to open and close a file. It took forever in the desktop, versus online, it's very quick to switch between those clients. We also, in QBOA, have some alerts, bookkeeping and payroll alerts, and I'll show you that in just a minute. We've got the document request feature, where instead of going out to your email, sending the request to your client, and then they send you something back, this is all integrated with QBOA, so it's all right there available for you and the team members who have access to that client to be able to access that. Then we have some of those accountant tools that, again, these are things that save us a lot of time. Reclassifying transactions, write off invoices, undo the bank rec, and the trial balance feature that helps us preparing and getting ready for our income taxes. So let's go ahead and go into QBOA, and let me show you a little bit about this. So this is the new QuickBooks Online Accountant, in case you haven't seen it. I think most of you have, and there's in-depth training on this. I'm just going over the highlights for you. But this is where we talked about you've got your client dashboard with all of your clients here. You've got alerts. These alerts help you manage your business and know what's going on with your clients fast and efficiently and at a glance. So I can quickly see this client has 90 unaccepted transactions. Those are things that have downloaded from the bank, but they haven't been added or matched yet. Maybe somebody's falling behind if there's 90. So I would know to follow up with either one of my team members if they're doing it, or follow up with the client to see if they're having any problems. These seem to be up to date. There's no problems there, but I also noticed this download fee failed. So there's a problem with that bank. We need to go in and check into that. So it helps you to manage some of that, as well as other alerts. Like here, we have 7 changes to closed books. So we set a closing date password, and there were 7 changes. And then there's 3 more items. Well, if I wanted to know what those were, I could click on that and at a glance over here on the right. Let me minimize my toolbars here for GoToWebinar so I can actually see it. Over here on the right, you can see there's the 7 changes, but then there's 12 unaccepted transactions. There's 1 check without a payee. So you can see all of these alerts, and on any one of them, if you click Review Now, it's going to take you right down into that detail. Like if I click on this one, it'll take me right into whichever check it was that didn't have a payee name. So again, these are huge time savers, having this client dashboard here. And also if you're doing payroll with QuickBooks Online, you're going to have payroll alerts in here. Over here's this document request feature, where we can see I've sent 4 open requests to this client. I've got 1 of 10 documents that I've requested. If I wanted to know the details, I'm able to click on that. You can see what you've sent to your client, and so you don't have to go out to your email and look for emails that you've mailed to your client. And when these documents come in, like they've submitted these two things, when the documents come in, they're all going to be right here in QuickBooks Online, available to all the team members who have access to this client. So you can see for Beautiful Landscapes, we have 14 of our team members who have access to this particular client. They'll be able to access the documents that they need. Because when you set up your team members over here, you can choose which clients and what permissions people have access to. So again, this whole QBOA dashboard here is a huge time saver for us for managing our clients. You don't have this with desktop at all. And you can put your clients in different kind of groups so that you can quickly find all of your wholesale clients or all of your bookkeeping clients. Again, big time saver, and that's something that's not available in QuickBooks Desktop, and I really just love it. I think that is great. So you can add your clients here either when you're adding a new client, or if you've got a client that you get, let's say they've been using QuickBooks for a couple of months and now they realize they need your help, they invite you as the accountant user. You accept that invitation, and that's what puts them showing up here on your QBOA dashboard. John says, what happens when a request expires? It's just sitting there as an open request. Now, if you wanted to cancel that or get rid of it, so like here's one that expired. The reason it expires is you give your client a due date on when they should respond to you. And if they don't respond, you could always come over here and mark this request as complete. Maybe they sent it to you and they forgot to reply to this email or to upload them here. You can always go ahead and mark that request as complete to get that off of there and delete and get rid of that if you need to. But this is a great feature, and you can use that request feature with all of your clients, not just QuickBooks Online clients. You can add clients on your dashboard that aren't QBO clients. You just wouldn't have any of these alerts or the trial balance feature or things like that. So it would be more limited, but you still could use that document request feature there. Okay, let me go ahead and look and see if there's any other quick questions. And I've covered this briefly. There are other webinars that go over QuickBooks Online Accountant in more depth. As a matter of fact, part of your training to be a certified Pro Advisor covers QBOA. If you haven't joined the Pro Advisor program yet, remember it is free for access to QuickBooks Online, to QuickBooks Online certification and training and all that for QBO. It is free. Somebody's asking about how can we get into that webinar that Hector mentioned for the apps. If you go to QuickBooks, he mentioned it's under Accountants University. If you just go to QuickBooks.com, QuickBooks.com, under the Accountant menu here, see where it says Accountant, Learn, and Support. Accountant, Learn, and Support. This is going to take you into Accountants University right here. Under Accountants University, that's where you'll be able to find that webinar tomorrow that he talked about. So you can come in here and you can click on Training for You, go in and look and find that webinar. Also, I'd like to go ahead and mention right here on this upcoming training, we are going to 17 different cities across the U.S. For example, I'm doing San Francisco this afternoon, Irvine tomorrow, Phoenix is on Thursday. I'll be going to Minneapolis, I'm going to Portland, and I'm going to Seattle. Hector and I are going to do Miami and Atlanta together. We're doing 2 different seminars, the Firm of the Future training to help you to move online and move your practice online and get connected, and be the trusted advisor. There's also certification prep training. These are free events. So again, go to QuickBooks.com under Accountant, click on Accountant, Learn, and Support, and go into Accountant University, and you'll be able to access some of those great things. And I hope to see you at some of those events. If you're at some of these events, make sure you say hi when you're there, okay? Anyone can get QBO free just for signing up as a QBO Pro Advisor. The Pro Advisor program is for accountants and bookkeepers. It's for accounting professionals that are working with multiple clients, and then yes, that is free. And somebody else says, how do you get the free QBO training? I just was showing you in here, this is the live event under upcoming training. Under Training for You is where you can get the other webinars that they have, the Cert Prep or the app webinar that Hector mentioned is coming up tomorrow. You'll see out here you'll have lots of different resources. Here's your webinar training. Here's From the Future. So here's the apps and different information. So go through here and look at some of this stuff. Here's the one Hector mentioned tomorrow. So again, go to QuickBooks.com. Under the Accountants tab, click on Accountant, Learn, and Support. and you can go in there to look at the Accountants University and the training so that you can sign up for some of that free training. Okay? All right, so that was some of the cool things that we have available for you for accounting professionals. We also have some more things. We've already talked about quite a few, and Hector mentioned the automatic reports, but we also have automatic invoicing. And I do have time for a few more questions, so I'll get back to some of the questions in just a minute, okay? So the automatic invoicing. As you know, in QuickBooks Desktop, you can set up a memorized transaction. So, for example, if you want an invoice to happen every month, you can set that up as a memorized transaction in QuickBooks Desktop. However, in QuickBooks Desktop, you actually have to open that desktop file in order for it to create that transaction. So what if you got somebody who's not using QuickBooks very often? I know some clients that only open it every few months. You know, they're not getting in there all the time and keeping up to date. With QuickBooks Online, you set up a recurring invoice, and it will automatically happen whether you log in or not. So you can set up a recurring check, a recurring expense. You can set up recurring sales receipts and have it automatically charge the credit card. But the automatic invoices is especially cool. And these things will automatically happen whether you're logged into QuickBooks Online or not. So let me go ahead and show you this. Whoops, it logged me out. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the sample company. So I am in QuickBooks Online Accountant. I can access the sample company here from clicking on the gear and click on sample company. So I'm going to go on into our sample company and show you these recurring transactions because I think this is super cool. Another feature that saves a lot of time compared to desktop. Let me just go ahead and go into my customers, and I'm going to pull up an overdue invoice. Let's just pull up this invoice. Let's say I want to make this invoice recurring. And again, you can make recurring transactions for an expense, for a bill, for an invoice, for a sales receipt. I'm just going to happen to show you an invoice because there's some especially cool things that you can do with invoices. So once you have that transaction open, I'm going to click on Make Recurring down here at the bottom. You can have it scheduled or unscheduled. Now, the reason people will use an unscheduled one is, let's say they have to enter payroll on a weekly basis. They will memorize that transaction so that they can use that recurring invoice so that they don't have to remember all the accounts that are involved. Or perhaps it's a sales receipt where you're recording daily sales. They'll do it as unscheduled so they can use that as a template and they don't have to remember all the lines that are involved in that. I'm going to go ahead and say mine's scheduled, and I want this to be monthly every month on, let's say, the 5th day of the month. If you wanted it to be weekly, you could do that. If you wanted quarterly, you would put monthly every 3 months on here. So you can change it up however you need to. Now, here's the magic. This is what first of all, these will automatically create whether you log into QuickBooks or not. So that's one thing that's different from desktop. And the super cool thing is you can have it automatically send these emails. So think about this. I had the privilege of going to Maui a week or so ago with ExpensiCon. I could have been on the beach in Maui, or next week when we're in the Bahamas, with a little umbrella drink, and if it was time for my invoices to go, they would automatically create and automatically email them to your clients or to your customers. So think about that. If you've got small businesses, like this sample company is Craig's Landscaping, he could automatically invoice his clients for their weekly mowing, a daycare center for the weekly tuition, a homeowners association for their dues, a fitness center for the monthly dues. You can have landlords automatically invoicing for the rent each month. Not only will it automatically create it, it will automatically email that to the customers as well. Those are huge time savings for us and for a lot of our clients. You also could set up a sales receipt to automatically happen, and you could, if you've got their credit card information and you get their permission, you can automatically charge their credit card every time, like every month or quarter or whatever it is. So big time savings. You also can automatically invoice for any unbilled time or expenses, any unbilled charges. So again, this is something that's different than desktop, super cool, super good time-saving feature for us and for our clients. Now, once you've saved those recurring transactions, you can find those by clicking on the gear, and under List, you'll see Recurring Transactions. And you can always go in and turn that off if you need to, or edit that, make changes to it as you need to, because you've got those available there. So I think that's really cool. Can auto invoice include out-of-pocket expenses? So Mitchell, if you've included those expenses as a billable expense and you want to bill that to the client, and again, you would need to have QuickBooks Plus for this, QBO Plus, you can mark that as billable, and yes, you can tell it to include unbilled charges so that it will automatically do that. So I think that's really cool. Somebody else says, when transitioning from desktop to QBO, will the chart of accounts move across exactly, or do I have to go in and set it up based on the sector? If you're converting from desktop to QuickBooks Online, the chart of accounts will convert for you. So it will convert for you. How can I auto pay the invoice with a client card? So Gina, if you want it to automatically charge, you don't set up an invoice. Instead, you set up a sales receipt. Okay, so you would go in and create your sales receipt, because here under sales receipt, you can enter the payment method, but I want it to be paid with Visa. You enter the credit card details, and you make the sales receipt recurring. Okay, so the sales receipt would be recurring, and of course, you have to get permission from your clients. There is a form that you can get in the Merchant Center for your client to authorize you to automatically charge their card. Somebody says that they're having problems with the sample company trying to load. They're using Firefox, and it's not loading. James, periodically you need to clear your cache and cookies. So if something doesn't work right, like if you can't get the sample company to load, clear your cache and cookies. You need to do that periodically. That's one reason why I use Chrome, because with Chrome I can have multiple users. So for example, you can see down here on the bottom, I have this puppy dog user, I have this little happy face user, and the little martini glass user. I have multiple users in Chrome, so this allows me to have multiple companies open if I want to, but my puppy dog user is the one that I use for my normal web browsing. The happy face user is the one I use for QBO because I'm happy when I'm using it. But when I clear my cache and cookies in QBO, that doesn't affect my normal web browsing. So having separate users allows you to clear the cache and cookies without messing up your normal browser. So I recommend you clear your cache and cookies and give that a try and see if that helps fix that for you. Okay, so that was super cool feature number 5 that will save you lots of time. Then also, there's just lots of other features. So I have a number 6 on here because those were the top 5, in my opinion, that really are huge time savers when working with QuickBooks Online. But there's lots of other things as well. For example, the audit log in QBO, super cool, way, way better than desktop. I'll show you that in just one second. Then also, when you email an invoice to your clients, you can see when they viewed it, so you can confirm not only did you email it, what date and what time, but the client looked at it at what date and what time. You can use class and location tracking with Plus, QBO Plus. You can have multiple budgets with QBO Plus. You can have delayed charges and credits with Plus. You can seamlessly convert a check, an expense, or a credit card charge into a bill payment. If your client pays it wrong, let's say they entered the bill, but instead they entered a check or an expense to pay it, in desktop, that's quite tedious to kind of fix that. In QuickBooks Online, it's super easy to change and turn that check, expense, or credit card charge into a bill payment to fix that problem. So again, these are super cool features that I absolutely love in QBO that are different than desktop. Let me show you that audit log real quickly. So I'm going to go into, let's go into a transaction. Let's see, what do I have here? Let's go into a vendor and let's find a bill, or let's find some kind of transaction on them. And I'm going to just change this. Let's change it from 241. Let's make it 2041, and let's do save and close. So I've just changed and edited that transaction. Well, under the gear and audit log, it's going to show you every little thing. When someone logs in, when they log out, when they edited something. There's a bunch of products and services that were edited. Now, I don't know why it's not showing the transaction that I just edited. Let's refresh it. Maybe I did it too quickly. Yeah, it's not showing up for some strange reason. Of course, as soon as I try to show you this, it's not going to work properly. But normally it would show you the transaction that you just edited here. Let me just go edit that again. Let's go back into this bill. And I changed it to 2041. Let's just make it a bigger number. 20,000. Save and close. Now, let's refresh my audit log. And of course, this is the sample company. It always does things wrong. Okay, I don't know why it's misbehaving. Oh, it's saying I edited the product. I edited that product or service. Oh, silly me. I edited the rate for that. I didn't just change an expense. I edited the rate for that item. That's why it's showing me that I edited that item. Let me go ahead here and let's edit an amount. So let's make this $4,200 and do save and close. I was editing an item instead of changing a transaction, and it shows you that as well. But now let's see this. It's still not behaving. Here's where I edited the product or service. So it can show you that you edited it here, and it shows you exactly what happened. I'm not sure why it's not showing that I edited that expense. Normally it does, but it's going to misbehave for me today. Oh, here we go. It's just out of order. Oh, yeah, and here's the edited of the bill that I changed. Okay, just not in the order I expected it to be in. But if you find something that was edited, so here's the one I just changed to 4,200. You click View, and I like to click Compare. So here's when it was first added. Here's when it's edited. It will highlight what changed. So I can see the amount changed, but I don't know what it was before. If I click on Compare, on the left side it shows what it was before. On the right side it shows what it is after. How cool is that? And on that audit log, you can easily filter by user, by date. You can easily find what mistakes people made and find them and fix them quickly and efficiently. Now, I tell you what, we are getting near the top of the hour. I will hang around and answer some more questions. However, let's go ahead and do our poll question. So answer the CPE keyword if you need CPE credit, because I know we have some people that need to leave at the top of the hour. So some people need to leave at the top of the hour there. Somebody says the audit log doesn't work right on the sample company. It did, Hector. I was just looking in the wrong place. I needed to scroll down some more to find it in there. So it did work. I just needed to scroll down and look for it a little bit better. Okay. Somebody says you need to set up a new Gmail account for each added user. I've never set one up before. Joy, in Chrome, yes, each Chrome user needs to have a separate email. So you can set up free Gmail accounts to do that if you need to. And then also, one of the other things I was going to add is that the nice thing about setting up Chrome users, remember when I told you I had to borrow somebody else's computer to log in? Well, when I log into Chrome with my email account, it pulls up my bookmark bar, like up here, my one-click bookmark bar. It pulls that up. It pulls my other settings and my things like that. It pulls up Chrome, your Chrome user for you. So that's kind of nice. Kathy says, I don't see any questions. Kathy, I see them, and I'm reading them out verbally and sharing them with you, but you're right. You're not going to see everybody's questions either. So sorry about that. Let's see if we've got some other ones. Can our clients see the audit log? Yes, Melissa. Everybody can see the audit log. It is always on. It cannot be turned off, and it is super easy to check that. So there is the CPE keyword. Somebody else says using Chrome Incognito will also resolve this issue. Yes, Andrea, you can use Chrome in the incognito or the private browser mode as well. Okay, if you need CPE credit, please go ahead and answer that CPE keyword. I see we have lots and lots of people joining us. Thank you so much. Melissa says that stinks because they can see how efficient we are being. Melissa, many of your clients aren't going to go in and take a look at the audit log. They're not really going to think about that or look at that. And that's another reason why, Melissa, we want to move away from hourly billing into value pricing. Okay, so we do want to move away from that. Okay. So somebody says in Desktop Premier Edition, there's a capacity limit. One of my file sizes is large and giving some trouble. Should I recommend in QBO? So, you know, that's a question that really depends on the needs of the client. The file size limitations that you have in Desktop, the list limits that you have in Desktop, you don't have those limitations with QBO. However, you also need to just determine if the features and the functionality of QBO will meet their needs. That's on a client-by-client basis. You have to do a needs assessment to determine if it's going to meet their needs. And I have done a QBO Power Hour on which QuickBooks is right for my client. Back in January, I believe that was, January or February. look in the QB Power Hour archives, and we go over how to do that needs assessment with your client. Okay? All right, I'm going to give you a last call, about 5 more seconds. If you need CPE credit, go ahead and answer that poll question. I'm going to be closing that. All right, thank you all. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Okay, now I've got a few more units here for questions. So those of you that want to hang around for another 10 minutes, I'm glad to answer a few more questions for you. Those of you that have got to go, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Join us for some upcoming QB Power Hour webinars. We'd always love to see you joining us. So a couple more questions. What do you do when QBO becomes unresponsive? Clear the cache and cookies. That's the first thing I do when something isn't working as you would expect it. Go under, in Chrome, you've got the 3 little bars here for your menu. I go under More Tools, and you'll see Clear Browsing Data. And a lot of times you'll want to clear the browsing data for the beginning of time, okay? So not just the past hour, but the beginning of time. This logs you out of everything, and so you have to log back in, and that's why you may not want to do this and affect your normal web browsing. That's why I like to have a separate Chrome user, okay? Cool. Valerie says, absolutely love this webinar. We'll get more involved. Super. I am so glad to hear that. That is very, very good. So thank you very much for joining us. Love it. Yes, and when you clear your cache and cookies, you can send them to me because I love cache and I love cookies. Okay. Can we have user with limited view only access or just do certain entries? Yes, you can set up some user permissions. If you go to add a new user, you can choose which permissions you would like to give them. It's not as robust as QuickBooks Enterprise, but you can access or set up some user permissions in there. Okay, does the audit log work correctly when you switch companies? Yes, Ron, it will work based on whichever company you currently have open. Somebody says, how can I tell if my bank allows auto update? Most of the banks do, so once you set that bank feed up, it should be downloading every evening when you have cleared transactions. Some banks, though, I have learned, only do it 2 or 3 times a week, so you would need to check into that. Somebody says, can we change an expense to a check? No, Patricia, I'm pretty sure you cannot do that one. You can change an expense to a bill payment, though. When somebody has not paid the bill, you can apply it to that. Somebody wants to know, how do you convert a check to a bill and mark it as paid? Well, let me go in and see if I can find a check. Let's search in the recent transactions. I'm going to hide these questions so I can see. Here's a check right here. Let's say this particular check should have been a bill. I don't see a bill out here. So what I'm going to do, watch this. So I'm going to right-click, duplicate this tab, come over here. Let's close the check window. And I'm going to enter a bill for Squeaky Clean real quick. Enter a bill, and it was Squeaky Clean Car Wash. How much was it? It was $19.99. So let's put this amount on here. Let's just put it to maintenance. Is maintenance in there? Let's do maintenance and repair, $19.99. I don't know what it was. Anyway, that's okay. So I have a bill for Squeaky Clean, right? And I have a check over here. Let's refresh this check. Da-da-da. There we go. Now, notice how this pops out from the right-hand side. I didn't have this a while ago because I didn't have any outstanding bills for this vendor for Squeaky Clean Car Wash. There were no outstanding bills. So what happened is we had a bill here, but instead somebody entered a check to pay that. All you do to fix that, you open the check, you click over here on this bill, you click Add, and what it's going to do is going to take away automobile expense here. Add, it changes that to apply it to the bill, and it changes that to a bill payment. Best of all, if this was a check that was already cleared, it will still be marked cleared. Is that super magic or what? Voila! Love that. Oops. That says I got something. Oh, I don't have an amount up here. $19.99. There we go. Save and close. So, super cool. How cool was that, right? I love doing magic tricks for you guys. Okay? I think that is really cool. That is also covered on fixing things. That is also covered in the certification prep. Okay. So somebody's asking about restricting access to payroll. Yes, Connie, Intuit hopefully will be upgrading the user permission so we can provide more granular permission like that. How did you get the compare view? James, when I opened up in the audit log, so let me show you that again. Let me minimize this. So under the gear audit log, I didn't see it because I needed to scroll down a little farther. I was looking up high and I needed to scroll down farther. So down here where you've got something like here was edited, this credit card expense. When you have something that's changed, you go ahead and you click view to view that transaction. Here's where it was edited. I want to see where it was edited. And you want to see what, here it shows you what changed in yellow, but I want to see what it was before. Click right here where it says compare. That will show you what it was before, what it was after. That's especially helpful if they change the account from one account to another account or change the amount, and you need to see what it was prior to that change. That's super, yeah, Sherry says super cool. It is super cool. And in the audit log, you can filter by vendor a lot easier and a lot more information. Filter by vendor or filter by user, and you can see not only what transactions did they enter or change, did they add or edit a vendor, did they add or edit a service item, did they add a custom report, you know, anything they did when they log in, when they log out, everything. So I really love that. I think that's amazing. Okay, anything else? How safe are my files in the cloud? Actually, they're actually more safe on Intuit servers than on your own server. Intuit spends millions and millions of dollars on security. They have biometric access to their data centers. They have redundant data centers. They have way more security than we do on our own computers. We can't restrict access that well. So the data is actually more secure on Intuit servers than on our own. So I think that's something that a lot of people have realized now, that the security is there. Okay, let's see if there's some other questions that we have. You guys have asked a lot of great questions here. I'm trying to look for some quick ones. Somebody says, I agree with Valerie. This is one of the best. Cool. Looking forward to more QBO advanced stuff in the future. Well, that is awesome, Denise. I'm really glad to hear that. I hope you guys all have enjoyed this webinar and gotten a lot of great information out of it. Let's see if there's any last questions that are urgent. There's a lot of questions in here, and I just don't have time for all of them. So I'm trying to look through and pick out some of the ones that will be most applicable to everybody. Okay, thanks for showing us the bill and check thing. Yeah, that's great too, isn't it? How can I get to the sample company to practice? Okay, so one more time on how to get to the sample company. When you're in QBOA, oh gosh, and I've logged out. It logs me out when I logged into the sample. Let me go over here. Oh, that one logged me out too. And now talking about security, one of the new security features that Intuit has, hold on, I can't talk and type this at the same time, is this multi-factor authorization where it texts you the code. Whoops, and I changed my password. It texts you the 6-digit code for you to log in. So again, this is another measure of security, protecting your data. Oh, all right, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It must know that it's time to go. And it's telling me that I've used up my time limit. Which, by the way, on this code, if you still have it emailing to you, that is too slow. Change it so you have it texted to you. And usually I get it so fast. Okay, I need to clear the cache and cookies on that. It's not working for me. Usually you get it really super fast when you're texting it to yourself instead of doing an email. So I highly recommend doing that. Let me see. All right, let's try on this user and see if this works. If not, then we're going to have to go. Because I have to get ready to present here in San Francisco this afternoon. Okay, continue. All right, this is being super slow now. I'm on the hotel internet, so you know how that goes, right? Okay, it's super, super slow. It's working, taking ever so slowly. All right, when you're in QBO, first of all, if you want to get the sample file, you can Google QuickBooks Test Drive, and you'll find the link for it. But if you just get into it through that or through that URL, you don't have access to all of the accountant's tools and features so that you can play around with those, like the reclassified transactions and things like that. So in QBOA, you click on the gear, and in the far right column, see where it says Sample Company. Sample Company. That will log you out of QBOA, which is why I had to log back in. That logs you out of QBOA, takes you into that sample company where you have access to the accountant's tools that you can play around with, too. And Brent says, I am using a VPN for security on that insecure hotel network. Brent, I'm only in the sample company, so I'm not really worried about it, okay? All right, Mary says, fantastic info in this webinar. Great, Mary, I am glad you joined us along with all of the hundreds of attendees that we had on this webinar. Thank you guys so much, because I know Tuesday is a special day for our QB Power Hours. I'm very glad you guys joined us today. I hope you'll keep joining us on Thursdays, roughly every other Thursday, for the official QB Power Hours. But thanks for joining us today, and I hope to see you guys sometime soon, okay? Thanks, everybody. Bye.